This is Answer to Job, class number 8. And our assignment covers paragraphs 662 through 687, plus the book of Enoch. Just to review the overall theme of tonight's assignment, the basic theme is the differentiation and transformation of the God image in history. And the data that Jung uses to demonstrate that transformation and differentiation of the God image are chiefly the vision of Ezekiel, the vision of Daniel, and the visions in the book of Enoch. And that data covers a period maybe of about 4 centuries or so. Vision of Ezekiel comes at about the time of the Babylonian exile. So let's call it 550 BC, and the book of Enoch is finally completed about 100 BC. So you've got 450 to 500 years elapsing from the one to the other. The basic idea is that Job's encounter with Yahweh is followed by an activation of the collective unconscious, by virtue of the fact that Job has had such a profound conscious insight into the nature of the deity, so that the God image feels obliged to move closer to man. And that's what brings about the activation of the collective unconscious. And this tendency of the God image to move closer to man is revealed first in Ezekiel's vision, and then in a whole spate of apocalyptic literature that appears in the last 2 centuries BC. The only items of that literature that Jung refers to are the book of Daniel and the book of Enoch. So that's the basic theme of our subject matter. And having said that now, I want to focus my remarks on 8 items concerning the assignment. Number 1 is Ezekiel's vision, which Jung turns to and speaks about beginning in paragraph 665. Incidentally, those of you that have attended some of my other seminars will be familiar with the picture that I brought along. No harm in seeing more of a good thing. This is Ezekiel's vision as I render it. It's a simplification, but at least it gives you something to hang the account onto. It's meant to be a great chariot with 4 massive wheels, and above it is the vault of the heavens, and then sitting above that vault is the God image in the image of man, it says, in the likeness of a human being. And each of the great wheels is surrounded by eyes all around its rims, and each wheel is accompanied by a creature that has 4 faces. Jung speaks of this vision. He says this great vision is made up of 2 well-ordered compound quaternities, that is, conceptions of totality, such as we frequently observe today as spontaneous phenomena. The quinta essentia is represented by a figure which has the likeness of a human form. Here Ezekiel has seen the essential content of the unconscious, namely the idea of the higher man by whom Yahweh was morally defeated and who he was later to become. Now this vision is really the culmination of the Old Testament as understood psychologically, and it's the foundation for Christian mandalas of Christ, supported by the four evangelists, 3 of whom have animal faces and 1 of whom has a human face. And it's the starting point for all later Jewish mysticism. And Jung has used this same image as the basic pattern for his formula of the self that he describes in considerable detail in Ion. You'll remember from last year. And this vision is found in chapter 1 of the book of Ezekiel. And let me just read you a few of the passages to remind you of the flavor of this great vision of the God image, which is the most differentiated image of the God image that occurs in the Old Testament. You see, the process of differentiation has occurred as a result of the encounter with Job. It's not so diffuse. It's undergone a separatio into 4, so to speak. Strong wind from the north, a huge cloud with flashing fire. 4 living creatures within the cloud. Each had 4 faces. One was the face of a man, one the face of a lion, one the face of an ox, and one the face of an eagle. And there were wheels on the ground, one beside each of the 4 living creatures. Rims full of eyes all around. And over the heads of the living creatures, something like a firmament could be seen, like glittering crystal. And above the firmament, something like a throne, looking like sapphire. And upon it was seated one who had the appearance of a man. So here, for the first time, Yahweh is manifesting as a man. That's indicating that he's coming closer to humanity, and he's starting to undergo humanization. And fire was all about the throne. It was surrounded with splendor, like the rainbow which appears in the clouds on a rainy day. And when in the next chapter, Ezekiel hears a voice from the figure above, and the voice says, "Son of man, stand up, I wish to speak with you. Son of man, I am sending you to the Israelites rebels who have rebelled against me, etc. So he addresses Ezekiel with the title Son of Man. Now, Jung says, presumably, that is meant to indicate that Ezekiel is the son of the man on the throne. All right, that's the first piece of data that Jung adduces to indicate that the God image is undergoing differentiation and transformation. The second reference is to the vision of Daniel, which he speaks of in paragraph 668. Where he says, the disturbance of the unconscious continued for several centuries, and around 165 BC, Daniel had a vision of four beasts and the Ancient of Days, to whom, with the clouds of heaven, there came one like a son of man. Here the Son of Man is no longer the prophet, but a son of the Ancient of Days in his own right, and a son whose task it is to rejuvenate the Father. Now, this reference is found in the 7th chapter of Daniel, starting with the 2nd verse. In the vision I saw during the night, suddenly the four winds of heaven stirring up the great sea, from which emerged four immense beasts. One was like a lion. The second was like a bear. I'm skipping a little bit here. The third was like a leopard. And the fourth, different from all the others, terrifying, horrible, and of extraordinary strength. It had iron teeth. And as I watched, thrones were set up, and the Ancient One, the Ancient of Days, took his throne. His clothing was snow bright, and the hair on his head as white as wool. His throne was flames of fire, with wheels of burning fire. A reference to Ezekiel's wheels. A surging stream of fire flowed out from where he sat. Thousands upon thousands were ministering to him, and myriads upon myriads attended him. And as the vision continued, I saw one like a son of man coming on the clouds of heaven. And when he reached the Ancient of Days, and was presented before him, he received dominion, glory, and kingship. Nations and peoples of every language serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion that shall not be taken away. His kingship shall not be destroyed. So here again, we have the God image manifesting in a vision to man and appearing first of all as an old man, and then as somebody designated as the Son of Man, who's will represent a rejuvenation of the antiquated God image of the Ancient of Days. And just as in the other case, there's a quaternity of figures that are described as three animals, and then the fourth one of a different nature, and it doesn't say what the nature is. So there's that characteristic theme of the 3+1, the axiom of Maria, as you remember. So that's the second batch of data about the changing of the God image. And the third batch then comes up in Jung's reference to the book of Enoch. Now, I hope you've been through it and have some idea of its content. It's diffuse. It's not very well ordered, and I think that's largely because it's a composite. That it's probably a compilation of a number of visionary experiences, probably of more than one author, and it's written over a period of time, probably at least half a century. But let me just outline the essential features of that portion of the book of Enoch that concerns us. In chapter 7 through 16, we learn about the fallen angels who have been lured down because of the attraction of the daughters of men, and they descend from heaven and take wives and human wives and teach humanity the arts and sciences. But also the children that they generate are giants who turn on humanity and start to eat them. And this is finally brought to God's attention, as Jung points out, rather belatedly brought to his attention. He should have been aware of it to start with, but he wasn't. And he then eventually punishes the fallen angels by binding them and casting them into darkness. I'll just remind you from the book of Enoch a little bit of what it says. Azazel taught men to make swords, knives, shields, breastplates, workmanship for bracelets and ornaments, the use of paint, the beautifying of the eyebrows, the use of stones, all sorts of dyes, so that the world became ordered. Impiety increased, fornication multiplied, and they transgressed and corrupted all their ways. Another fallen angel taught sorcerers and dividers of roots. Another, the observation of the stars. Another, astronomy, motion of the moon. So that's chapter 7 to 16. Then chapter 17 through 37, Enoch takes a series of journeys through earth and hell, going in the four directions. So this is a characteristic peregrinatio. It's a circumambulation of the whole circumference of the world that involves again a quaternity because it means a visiting of each of the four directions in turn. Then this is followed in chapters 39 through 43 by a journey to heaven. And there, Enoch has a vision of the four sides of God. Three sides representing three of the divine presences are busy praising God, and one side is busy warding off the Satans that threaten to attack him. Then, in chapters 45 to 50, we have a vision of the last judgment, the image of the Ancient of Days, and the Son of Man, who will pass judgment. There's a reference to that in paragraph 46. I beheld the Ancient of Days, whose head was like white wool. So it's the same image as Daniel. And with him another, whose countenance resembled that of man. And he was told that this other is called the Son of Man. This is the Son of Man to whom righteousness belongs, with whom righteousness has dwelt. And as Jung notes, there's great emphasis on righteousness connected with the Son of Man, presumably because Yahweh has begun to realize that he was a little deficient in that quality. Then in chapter 59, we're told about Behemoth and Leviathan, who will be served up as food to the faithful at the last judgment. And then in chapter 70, Enoch beholds the crystal house of God, and he is addressed by the God image as the Son of Man. The Ancient of Days came. And then that angel came to me, and with his voice saluted me, saying, Thou art the Son of Man, who art born for righteousness, and righteousness has rested on thee. The righteousness of the Ancient of Days shall not forsake thee. So what we have here at the end of the book of Enoch, this section of the book of Enoch, is that Enoch undergoes an apotheosis. He undergoes a deification because he is identified as the Son of Man, which is a manifestation of the God image. Now, so much for the summary of the book of Enoch. I want to return now to several of the items of that summary and say a little more about them. The fourth item concerns the giants that are generated by the fallen angels who start devouring mankind. I've reported a remarkable parallel to this account in Enoch, parallel of a dream that came to my attention. I'm going to read you part of it. Not the whole thing, but part of it. I've published it. You'll find it in volume 28, or in page 28, The Creation of Consciousness. This is the dream of a man who became a Jungian analyst. I'm walking along what appears to be the Palisades overlooking all of New York City. I'm walking with a woman who's unknown to me personally. We are both being led by a man who is our guide. New York City is in a rubble. The world, in fact, has been destroyed. It's just one heap of rubble. Fires everywhere, thousands of people running in every direction. Frantically, Hudson River has overflowed many areas of the city, smoke billowing up everywhere. The land's been leveled. Fireballs were in the sky, heading for the earth. It was the end of the world. I'm abbreviating a bit. The cause of this great destruction was a race of great giants. Giants who had come from outer space, from the far reaches of the universe. And in the midst of the rubble, I could see two of them sitting. They were casually scooping up people by the handful and eating them. The sight was awesome. Well, it goes on, that's not all. But it reveals the fact that this particular archetypal image which first occurred in connection with Noah's flood. You see, this was the prelude to Noah's flood. It occurs first in that context. It occurs for the second time in the context of the change of the eons at the beginning of our current eon, which is what Enoch was concerned about. And now the same image is showing up in the unconscious of individuals at the end of that eon in current times. It's a very vivid expression of the activation of the archetypal contents of the unconscious. That's what the giants represent, the archetypes. They're bigger than life things. And as they descend onto earth, the image of the devouring human beings is an expression of individuals being eaten up by identification with the archetype that are falling into the individual conscious psyche. And so it's an image of succumbing to inflation, being devoured. Okay, item number 5 concerns that fourth side of the deity is busy fending off Satan's. Jung refers to that in paragraph 673. Enoch in his vision sees the 4 faces of God. 3 of them are engaged in praising, praying, and supplicating, but the 4th in fending off the Satans and forbidding them to come before the Lord of Spirits to accuse them who dwell on earth. The vision shows us an essential differentiation of the God image. God now has 4 faces. In addition, Satan has now been excluded from the God image, and there's a conscious dynamic going on to keep him separate. Jung says, so that one of these faces is exclusively occupied in keeping his elder son, Satan, now changed into many, away from him, and in preventing further experiments after the style of the Job episode. Now, an interesting modern or almost modern parallel to this image is found at the beginning of Goethe's Faust. I can't say for sure, but I very much doubt that Goethe was familiar with the Book of Enoch. Anyway, in his prologue in Heaven, which is the beginning of his Faust, that starts out the same way the Book of Job starts out. It starts out with Mephistopheles visiting the court of heaven and then putting this wager to the Lord. But the way the prologue begins, it begins with the 3 archangels, Gabriel, Raphael, and Michael, each in turn, singing the praises of creation. That's how this prologue in heaven starts. How glorious your creation is, O Lord. 1, 2, 3, they come out. And then along comes Mephistopheles and says, I'm sorry, I can't give your creation a praise. Looks like a complete mess to me. That's number 4, you see, 3 plus 4. It's the same image exactly as the Book of Enoch. The only difference being that there was nothing to fend Mephistopheles off. He just sauntered into the heavenly court and started expressing himself. All right, item number 6, referred to in paragraph 675. The fact that Satans were being excluded in Enoch, Jung points out, indicates that a metaphysical split has already taken place between Yahweh and Satan. But then Jung goes on to say, but the pleromatic split is in its turn a symptom of a much deeper split in the divine will. The Father wants to become the Son. God wants to become man. The amoral wants to become exclusively good. And the unconscious wants to become consciously responsible. I think we've got 4 equations there that are worth our consideration. The split in the divine will, he says, means the Father wants to become the Son, meaning that an aging process is recognized that is calling for rejuvenation, rebirth. Means that God wants to become man, the eternal, the immutable, the archetypal and universal, want to be humanized. They want to manifest in time. They want to incarnate. They want to have existence in particularity, in time and space, to submit to limitation in order to manifest more concretely. The third equation says that the amoral wants to become exclusively good. The amoral refers to the unconscious state of the God image which exists prior to moral differentiation, prior to the separation of the opposites. And it wants to separate the opposites and then identify exclusively with the good. And that can take place only by becoming human. It can't occur as long as the God image remains in the eternal, undifferentiated realm. It has to allow itself to go through human incarnation in order to achieve that differentiation. And then finally, the unconscious wants to become consciously responsible. And there again, full consciousness of the self requires a particular incarnated human ego in order to be its vessel of realization. Now, all of those 4 equations, of course, refer to the process of the differentiation and transformation of the unconscious as it's encountered by the conscious ego, and these various equations describe the dynamics of what goes on in the unconscious when it is subjected to the scrutiny and the serious examination and the serious Auseinandersetzung and coming to terms with it of the conscious ego. Okay, item number 7 is this term "Son of Man," which came up. You remember, it came up in the vision of Ezekiel, came up in the vision of Daniel, and it comes up from the book of Enoch. This is a complex symbolic image of great dynamism. The whole book has been written on the symbolism of the Son of Man, written by Bush, Son of Man in Myth and History. Of course, it got so much attention because Christ used this term repeatedly to refer to himself. The term Son of Man occurs 80 times in the 4 Gospels. But as we've seen, it didn't start there. It started in Ezekiel, Daniel, and Enoch, all long before Christ. Religious scholars have disputed endlessly about this term, and the interpretations that they give it fall into four categories. One is the personalistic reductive category. According to this view, the term doesn't mean anything special, it just means human being. It's the same thing as if I were to say, man, it's cold outside. That I call the personalistic reductive interpretation. Second interpretation is what I call the archetypal. And according to that view, the term Son of Man refers to the original primal man or anthropos that first showed up in early Near Eastern myth. So that the synonym for Son of Man would be primal man, or man spelled with a capital M. The third category is what I call the messianic category, and it refers to a preordained, special, elect one, an earthly figure who is to come to earth and lead a life of suffering in order to redeem mankind. This is something akin to the suffering servant of Isaiah. And the fourth view of the Son of Man is the eschatological view. According to this view, he's a metaphysical figure who is an aspect or partner of Yahweh, of God, who will manifest himself at the end of time at the last judgment and come and pass judgment. This is the kind of complex, multifaceted interpretations that you get when you're dealing with a true symbol, because the true symbol is alive, and it won't stand still for a single interpretation. Psychologically, I think we can get some idea of what the term Son of Man means by comparing it with a similar term used in alchemy. In alchemy, one of the synonyms for the philosopher's stone is the Filius Philosophorum, the son of the philosophers. See, that's very similar to Son of Man. Philosophers was a name that the alchemists used for themselves. They were the philosophers. So when they said the philosopher's stone, the name of it is the son of the philosophers, what they mean is the son of the alchemists. It's the son of the people who made it. And what that signifies is that they considered the stone to be a product of human effort, although with God's help. And I believe the term Son of Man has a similar psychological connotation. It's an image of the self. It's a rejuvenation of the God image who's appearing in a younger version, but at the same time, it's not just called the Son of God. That is sometimes an alternative synonym, but in these contexts anyway, it's called Son of Man, which would signify that the image of the self, the newborn, transformed image of the self that it represents, is a son or a product of human consciousness. You see, the God image, in its conscious, transformed state, emerges as a result of an encounter with a conscious human ego. And that's why it's called Son of Man. Now let's see what Jung says about this Son of Man. He refers to it starting in paragraph 677. When Yahweh addressed Ezekiel as Son of Man, this was no more than a dark and enigmatic hint. But now becomes clear. The man Enoch is not only the recipient of divine revelation, but is at the same time a participant in the divine drama, as though he were at least one of the sons of God himself. This can only be taken as meaning that in the same measure as God sets out to become man, man is immersed in the pleromatic process. He becomes, as it were, baptized in it and is made to participate in the divine quaternity, i.e., is crucified with Christ. So that's quite an idea here, this idea that man is immersed in the pleromatic process. And he follows that up in paragraph 681, where he puts it this way. Enoch is addressed by the revealing angel with the title Son of Man, a further indication that he, like Ezekiel, has been assimilated by the divine mystery, is included in it, as is already suggested by the bare fact that he witnesses it. Enoch is wafted away and takes his seat in heaven. He beholds the house of God built of crystal. The head of days comes forth and says, "This is the Son of Man, who is born into righteousness." So here the striking phrase is that Enoch has been assimilated by the divine mystery, is included in it by the bare fact that he witnesses it. You see, that's one of the features of the ego's encounter with the unconscious. The very process of witnessing it drags one into it, and willy-nilly one becomes a participant in the process. There's no remote observer status in the process of encounter with the unconscious. You can't see it as it really is unless you participate. And then by the bare fact of witnessing the nature of the unconscious, you change it and you are drawn in to the divine drama that it is an expression of. All right. Well, our time has run out. I have one more item which I will save for our next session.